two things. It's freezing. And the second thing, I need to put a Tassie Devil on now. I'm going to show you how I do it. I've got my outfit here, and this is actually a squid rod. This is the Shimano Cephia squid rod, but the reason I'm using this, and people might say, why would you be using a squid rod for trout fishing? Well, it's 8 feet long and it's got a nice long soft taper. So two things, it holds the lure out further from the side of the boat when I put the rod out to the side. But second of all, with that soft taper, it gets the rod tip bouncing nicely. I can see that the Tassie's swimming really well. So I'm just looking where I'm going, getting this line on the electric. I'm just steering it with my remote in my pocket. And that way I can see that the lure is swimming properly, but also that longer length gets the lure further away from the other lures that are out. But also that nice soft spongy action is really good for when you're hooked up to a trout, because when they do those jumps and big head shakes and stuff, the rod absorbs it very nicely. However, most of the rods you'd want to use are about that 6'6" to 7 foot, 2 to 4 kilo, light in action, you know, quite soft, I suppose, so that you can let that fish do his lunges and carry on when you've got the big one on. But for now, when it comes to rigging the Tassie Devil, very simply, they come, you know, with a wire frame through them and a treble, but that's usually the first thing that I get rid of. So I ditch the treble, and then I get my Tassie Devil, and I've got a box here. I've got other boxes of lures, but this is just one box of assorted goodies just like that. There's shallow diving minnows, deep diving, there's spoons, there's things that look like yabbies, there's all sorts of stuff going on here. But if I get my Tassie Devil, and I'm going to go with a hot pink, and don't ask me why, but hot pink just catches trout, and especially early morning, late afternoon, stuff like that. And that's another good tip. When you come to a lake, and just like most species, dawn and dusk are prime time. Trout love to feed into the night. They eat all night long. So dawn and dusk always that sort of great period. However, you do catch them all day. You just need to adjust to where the fish move. So generally as the day goes on, they'll go into deeper water or sit on points and things like that. In the mornings and evenings, they'll be up in the shallow bays. That's just a good basic sort of point to go with. But for now, pink Tassie Devil, it's got no hook on it. So I get a bead, just like that guy there, bright orange bead, or you can have a green bead. And then the other thing I'm going to need is a hook. Now, I'll ditch the tray for a sec, all right? Now, the other thing I like is a bigger treble. And that looks quite big, but trout have big mouths, especially, you know, those big browns and rainbows. And I find that big hook, right, just when it gets them in the corner of the jaw, and it gets a really good sort of hook up rate, and it keeps them on. And that's the main thing you want to do with trout, because they jump and carry on. They're good at throwing the hook. So for now, what I'll do is I've got some 10-pound leader joined to my braid, and I like 10-pound, even 12-pound, because I'm always trying to catch the biggest fish I can. But also, if you get snagged in some weed, you can rip the lure out without snapping the lure off. But quite simply, feed the line through the Tassie Devil. I can hardly move my fingers, it's that cold this morning. Okay, now that's free flowing on the line, and that serves another purpose, which I'll explain. Then we drop the bead on, just like so. All right, feed that through. And then I get my treble, and I've got a little split ring on that. It gives a little bit more swing, allows the lure to swing that little bit better, and prevents wear and tear. Tie him on just like that. Okay, so I've done my knot. Just wet it, slide that down. That's perfect. I'll give that a quick snip. It's always good to be really organised too. Have all your cutters and net and pliers and things ready for when you need it. Now, having that Tassie free flowing on the line like that allows the lure to swim very well, which is obviously what you want it to do. And Tassies have got that big wide swaying sort of action. It just fires the trout up. But when you hook that trout and he starts to carry on, if he gets up on the surface and jumps, the first thing that will happen is this lure, which weighs 13.5 grams, it's quite heavy, will slide up the line away from the fish, and you don't get the leverage of the lure sort of throwing the hook out. So it works really, really well. Really simple system. You can cast them off the bank, you control them, you can do whatever you want. And I'd go so far as to say there would be more trout caught on Tassie Devils in this country every year than probably any other lure. They just catch fish, and you're crazy not to run them. You can put them on a down rigger, you can run them on the surface, you can do whatever. This one, I'm going to flip him out the back. I'm going to put him way back, out of the way, and you'll know that he's doing the right thing when I'll get this closer, right, and we should hopefully be able to see that rod tip just bouncing. There you go, look at that. And that'll run at about probably, 3 or 4 feet deep, right in that bite zone for the trout early morning.